Hey everyone, welcome to Scattered Curiosities' very first Tinysode. Now, as I'm sure you guys already know, I'm a one-man operation here at Scattered Curiosities, and it takes a little over a month to put together one of our full-length episodes, which I love doing. But I know sometimes people just can't wait a month for that next episode to come out, and they're jonesing for a little bit more information, so that's why we're putting out these Tinysodes once a week, which I will try to keep between 5 and 10 minutes maximum, where we will cover one quick scattered curiosity. And I've already talked too long, and I'm eating into my time. So without further ado, our first Tinysode. As I've mentioned before, I live in New York City, and a lot of times people come and visit, and there are things that you should be prepared for when you come to New York. So here are a couple of New Yorkosities that might make your visit to New York City a little easier. The first thing that anybody should know before they come to New York City is understanding our addresses. Oftentimes, you will see that your address is 357 West 56th Street. Now, here is the easiest way to figure out where you're going without using your GPS. It's quite simple. If you look at the map of New York City, as you go from south to north, the street numbers get higher. 1st Street, 2nd Street, 3rd Street, just like that. Now, if you're looking at the avenues which run north and south, they go 1st Avenue all the way on the east side to 12th Avenue all the way on the west side. And 5th Avenue divides east and west. So if you are trying to get to 357 West 56th Street, you will have to go 3 blocks west of 5th Avenue. It's that simple. Now, there are some neighborhoods in New York that are abbreviated with good reason. Here are a couple you may have heard of. Tribeca. Now, Tribeca just means the triangle below Canal Street. You may have also heard of Dumbo, not the animated Disney classic, but the neighborhood Dumbo, and that simply means down under the Manhattan Bridge overpass. And I'm sure that you've heard of Soho, which means south of Houston Street. And NoHo means north of Houston Street. Now, for some of you that have never been to New York City, you might be saying, Houston Street? Don't you mean Houston Street? No, in New York City, you don't say Houston Street because it is not named after Sam Houston, like Houston, Texas is, but rather after William Houston, which has an extra U at the end of his name. And a bonus curiosity, don't call it Long Island, call it Long Island. And also, this was a weird thing that I noticed when I moved here, and it still kind of annoys me to this day, but for some reason, New Yorkers, when they're standing in a line, they don't say that they're standing in line, they say they're standing online. And online, to me, has always meant being on the computer. And they just won't budge on this one. I've tried to have arguments with it with people that live here, that were born here, and they're just not having it. It's online, that's the end of it. Although one thing I stupidly assumed when I first moved to the city from Chicago was that when I would get on the ACE train here in New York City, which have blue circles around them, I kind of assume that they all went to the same place like they do in Chicago when you have the blue line, the red line, the pink line. The color of the line doesn't matter in New York City. It's the number or the letter that's on it. So don't just assume that all the blue ones go to the same place. And finally, I will share with you a couple of tips for visiting Times Square. If you take a picture with somebody that's dressed up like a Mario brother or Spider-Man with a backpack on or a Disney princess, those people expect you to tip them if you're going to take a picture of them or a picture with them. So expect that. Also, The correct term for the topless ladies that walk around Times Square with their breasts painted is desnudas. And for God's sake, if somebody walks up to you and hands you a CD, don't take it because they're going to demand some money, and sometimes those people can be very pushy.
If you'd like to help us keep the curiosities coming, please rate us on iTunes, SoundCloud, or your favorite podcast platform. And don't forget to visit scatteredcuriosities.com for exclusive free downloads and to donate to the show.